Good morning, y'all. My name is Joshua Edwards. I am your host of the Shop Talk Quinny podcast. And I said this on the last episode that I did with Megan Moore. We don't just interview entrepreneurs, professionals in the Quinny area. We go way beyond that. And in fact, the farthest I went was Australia as far as having a guest on the show. So, how about that? But this morning, I want to introduce a special guest. Her name is Carlee. Carlee, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So listen, I just want to hear because you're new to our audience, and I was introduced to you by Megan, who was
Yes.
on the show recently, and Megan, I'm a huge fan of her. And when she said, "Oh, you got to interview my friend Carlee," I was like, "Okay, let's do it." Any friend of Megan's a friend of mine, so I'm super happy to have you here. And what I want to do to kind of set us up here is to really kind of go into a bit of your story and to hear from you about, where is Carlee from? Where did she grow up? And who is Carlee and what is she doing now?
Awesome. Yeah. Let's dive in.
All right, let's start with where did you grow up, Carlee?
So I grew up mostly in Saskatchewan. I moved to Calgary in 2001 when I was 17. So right before my grade 12 year of high school, my dad got a job transfer and we came to Calgary. I was going to be moving here a year after, anyways, to attend university, but it just happened. We all moved at once. So that was definitely trying, but I really figured out who I was that year, which is good. But yeah, I grew up in the prairies. I'm a prairie girl at heart. I love the mountains. It's a big part of my life. Obviously, I live in Calgary, but I don't know. There's just something about the prairies. My dad comes from a farming family. I spent a lot of my childhood on my grandparents' farm. We actually went back there for Thanksgiving this year and took our littles with us, and that was really fun for my grandparents and like especially for my dad to see his grandchildren on the land that he grew up on and the land that my grandma grew up on and stuff. So that was really special.
That sounds absolutely beautiful. And I got to tell you, Carlee, I'm a huge fan of the country. Um, a lot of people they see me, they think, oh, this man must be urban because of maybe the way I talk or whatever. But I absolutely love the country. I grew up on 11 acres, and
Nice.
my late grandfather he owned a farm with lots of animals, hundreds of acres, and but you said something that I want to come back to because I think this is important, and I think it's going to help us get to know more about you, which is you said you really figured out who you were during that time. What do you mean by that, and what did you find out?
Well, it was actually really interesting. At the time, like leaving Saskatchewan was really hard for me. Obviously, leaving your friends when you're 17. I was moving away from my boyfriend at the time, and his mom and I were quite close. And one of the things that she said to me was, "You're going to come back even partway through next year, and it's only going to have been a few months, and you'll think that everyone's changed, but it's probably you that's changed, and you're going to figure out who you are, and this is going to show you really like what you're made of." And I
Wow.
mean, this is 20 some years later, and this woman's like words are still resonating in my brain. And yeah, it was crazy. I went from knowing everybody in my school, I went to quite a small school, to going to a really large high school starting in grade 12, where everyone's like, oh, you're new, so you must be in, a younger grade. And it was a struggle to try and, make new friends. Everybody is established. A lot of those people had gone to school together since, grade 7 or earlier and that kind of thing. So it was it was definitely trying, and it really just kind of taught me a lot. It helped me actually be able to be alone and be by myself, which I think was a really good
Hmm.
skill. It's an interesting skill to learn earlier in life, but it was a good one, that's for sure. So, and I really started to think about like, okay, what do I want? What are the, relationships that I want to have going forward? Do I need like a giant group of friends where I know everybody, or do I really want to just have maybe a few close friends or that kind of thing? It actually allowed me to make those decisions, which is kind of crazy.
Wow, wow. Two things come to mind right when you said that. I absolutely love that you brought up like the skill of being alone because it is something that can be very uncomfortable for humans to like just kind of sit with themselves and kind of because a lot of people, and just to be frank, like a lot of people actually may not like themselves. So for them to be alone is almost crippling because it's like, I don't like who I am when I'm by myself. So I think that's wonderful. Number one, that you were able to learn that and so young. And then number two, I gotta fast forward now, and you talk about like knowing what you want, and what I've observed during like the last 18, 24 months is I think a lot of people kind of rediscovered what they wanted because of all of the changes and things happening in the outside world. So if I can fast forward to now, like what does Carlee want now? And
Ooh.
how do you think that that's changed from maybe like before?
Honestly, not a lot has changed for me. That's one of those things. My husband and I were definitely like a real team unit as far as just our relationship and stuff goes. And we really realized over the last like 18, 24 months that not much has really changed in terms of like our dreams and plans and goals and priorities. Not a lot has really shifted for us, but I think we're the exception and not the rule. We know a lot of people that have been like, oh, this is really different, and they've had to shift a lot of things. Some people have made big life changes. We've been planning for large changes. We'd like to move maybe out to the country, have some acreage, that kind of thing. So that was always kind of in the works. It wasn't something that was, you know, kicked off with the pandemic and all of that. So but it did give us an opportunity to see what things would be like with like we're Calgary Flames season ticket holders. So we're like, oh, that was a big part of our life. What would it be like without having, hockey games to go to? Well, we were given the opportunity to figure out kind of what that looked like and see if that was something we necessarily wanted to be tied to. And I know that's kind of like a silly example, but it really, not a lot has really changed. It just was like, okay, this is probably what it'll look like. And and yeah, it's but again, I'm pretty sure we're the exception, not the rule, because we know a lot of people who are like, oh, okay, we need to make a shift. This is different. Things aren't what we thought they were going to be. Whereas we're like, yeah, no, this is about right. We're still just on the path we were going to be going on. And because I had one of our kids before the pandemic, like right before, and then I had one during, and people were like, oh my gosh, like, oh, you had a COVID baby. And I'm like, well, we just planned to have our kids close together. It just was like, well, this is happening. So, um,
Our youngest got called COVID baby too.
yeah, it's like, no, no, this is just the sequence and the timing in which our children happened. So,
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know what, Carly, and the thing that I love about that, and you can tell me if I'm right or wrong here, but like when I hear you say like, not a lot has changed as far as like what we want, and you talk about, wanting to move out to the country, we're gonna get into that in just a
okay.
moment because I want to know a little bit more about that. But the thing that really stuck out to me is that when I mentioned earlier about like a lot of people kind of redefining or rediscovering what they wanted or what they want now. In some cases, not all, but in some cases, it's been like, oh man, like I've been kind of living in a shell of myself or a shell of the life that I really wanted, and then the pandemic happens, and then for some people it was like, ooh, they like woke up, and it's like, oh wait a second, no, 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 like life is short, like this is really what I want, and they go after that. So when I hear you say like not a whole lot has changed, to me, I hear like we've always been like kind of in our cocoon of like this is what we want. It's not impacted about like what's going on over here, like we've always wanted this. What's going on out here doesn't change that, and oh by the way, we still gonna get there. Am I right or wrong by that statement?
You were absolutely, absolutely correct in that statement. That's, there's no question about that.
And I think that's beautiful because like it just shows like how grounded you are as a family, and I think that's super super important. But I got to come back to this question about the so first of all, where are you living right now? Like, are you in the city?
Yes. So we're in a subdivision. We built our house just over 12 years ago, and now we've renovated a lot of it, which is kind of interesting. My husband likes to joke that I renovate our house for blog content, but he's right in there doing the renovations with me. So, you know,
Oh, there you go.
it's just one of those things. Yeah. And we've got out like a great yard. We've landscaped the whole yard ourselves. We have a lot of really great trees, which we love. We just want more space, and we're pretty close. Like we're on the west side of Calgary, so it's really easy to just shoot out and go to the mountains and that kind of thing. And we're out to big parks and like provincial parks and national parks and stuff. We're very very fortunate where we live, but yeah, definitely more space is in our future.
That's awesome. I love the concept of like, what we have, like we're content with it. But I realized like I think a little bit later on, like there's a difference between like being content and being satisfied. And I think that like being content is always a good thing. And then like being satisfied or not being satisfied, I think it's okay not to be satisfied. I think it's okay to want to strive and hey, we this is okay what we're doing. There ain't nothing wrong with what we're doing, but we still want to get over here. So
Exactly.
that's what I'm hearing, and I absolutely love that. That's cool. So I saw the title of your book,
Yes.
and I want you to talk a little bit about that. And I absolutely love the title, by the way, and I'm going to get you to say it here in a moment because, like, for me, well, I'm just going to get you to say it, and then I'll tell you what I think about it. I think it's absolutely awesome. But you go ahead and tell us about a book that you wrote.
Yeah, so I wrote my first book, and I say first book because I definitely want to publish more in the future. So I wrote my first book. It's called Chasing Likes: The Unflattering Reality of Being an Influencer, which pretty much just says it all right there. So I've been an Instagram influencer for about 5+ years and a blogger for close to 7. And I've experienced a lot of things in a really short period of time. And I wanted to put it all in a book. It's a misunderstood industry. It's something that people are so curious about and don't know a lot about. And they're either afraid to ask or no one's really talking about it. And so I was like, you know what? Let's talk about this. Let's have the conversation.
Wow, I absolutely love that. So I got to go deep now. Like, was there like I know you said you went through a variety of things in a short time. Was there kind of like a defining moment where something happened? You were like, I got to tell people about this because this is like people need to know what they're getting into.
I think mostly over the last, I would say the last 18 months, just the way that I've kind of seen the industry go has been really interesting. Of course, there's a lot of things that are faked. It's social media. There's a lot of, keeping up with the Joneses and a lot of those types of things. And then, when the pandemic happened, that was really interesting just to kind of see the shift of people's behavior online, especially in the influencer space. Then Black Lives Matter happened. That was another really defining moment in the influencer space. And I discussed that in the book. I was hesitant to talk about it. I'm like, no, you know what? This has really been really impactful in the influencer space as well. And then just different world events, and hashtags that get used for them, like Free Gaza or any of those things, stuff around US presidential elections, um, and just how, like, my book isn't about politics or about social causes or any of those things, but really more of a commentary of how that was impactful in the influencer space and how it really changed the landscape. And then just how we kind of saw everything trickle out from there, just with really how people behave, the things that they said, um, just, yeah, how influencers are in general.
Wow. So obviously you've had a lot of experiences in the space, and you said in a short period of time. Is there one that kind of sticks out to you that you'd be willing to share as like, man, like this happened to me, and I wasn't expecting this, or this was different, or anything that comes to mind from that perspective.
There, I guess maybe it's around social causes. I would have to say that would probably been that there really was a big turning point for me in thinking like, you know what, if I'm going to do this, I want to do it right. I want to be authentic. I don't want to just add to the white noise. There were just, I guess I saw a lot of hypocrisy. I saw a lot of spreading of misinformation. I saw a lot of people, if I wasn't using certain social cause hashtags, I was being accused of not caring about the social cause, that kind of thing. One of the examples that I actually cite in the book is what happened with Breonna Taylor. And everyone just had like hashtag justice for Breonna, justice for Breonna. Great. What is using a hashtag actually going to do? That's not doing anything meaningful. So I was like, I don't really know a lot about this. I just keep seeing the hashtag. I want to know what this is even about. So I took a deep dive in. I did a ton of research and I was like, oh, the catalyst for this entire thing was the issuing of a no knock warrant. Sorry. I got too excited chatting there. Was the issuing of the no knock warrant. And so I started looking at this and I'm thinking, well, I'm Canadian, so I can't impact much in the States. But you know, in Canada, I can make an impact. So what I'm going to do is take a deep dive into this and see, are no knock warrants something that we have in Canada? And yes, they're issued a ton. And people are like, are you kidding me? These are bad. This isn't something that should be happening. Why is this going on? And I was like, I went on my stories and I went on my Instagram feed and I was like, listen, if you want to do something about this, here is the email of the current justice minister. Talk to them, talk to your member of parliament. You know, let's try and make change, you know, within the legal system. Let's, you know, try and actually do something to keep these things from happening in the future. Because what happened was absolutely tragic. It was terrible. It was horrifying. But just putting up a hashtag and saying I'm sad about it doesn't do anything to keep this from happening in the future. And I think for me, that was a really big wake up call that was like, great, I have a chapter in my book that I actually called hashtags don't save lives because they don't. Putting up a hashtag that you think is meaningful isn't actually doing anything. But then I also started to realize that people don't know what they should do or how they can get involved. So if I can maybe use my platform to give them the tools to get involved, like here's who you can email or here's who you can call to try and impact change, then you know, then I actually feel like, okay, I'm doing something more meaningful because I can't be like, hey, buy these granola bars, you know, just like as if nothing
Yeah.
is happening in the world. It's really difficult. But I mean, influencers are kind of put between a rock and a hard place with a lot of this stuff. And influencers are afraid to speak out because if they don't speak out soon enough, then they seem like they're jumping on the bandwagon and they don't really care. If they don't speak out, then does it look like they don't know anything about it or they don't care and they can get canceled for that? But I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do the research and I'm going to try and do something. And I don't know. I don't know if it helped, if it didn't. I don't know if the justice minister received a barrage of messages, but I just felt like this was a big turning point, especially for me. And I just kind of saw it in the industry and watching just how influencers handle these kinds of situations was, to be perfectly honest with you, a lot of it was really appalling. I saw a lot of behavior that I was like, I am not wanting to be put in the same category as these other people because I just feel like this is just not how humans should behave. But yeah, sorry, that went on for quite some time.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, good for you for doing the research. Like I find that we're like because the internet is just so at our grasp, it's so easy to you know, fall into the temptation of like I'm just gonna like react to something without having the full story. And typically like what you'll see on the internet doesn't have the full story. Like I'm sure you had to go through a variety of different resources to kind of get a holistic view of like what happened. And it's the same thing, like an Instagram post won't tell you everything you need to know about something, in or a hashtag won't do the same thing. So you're absolutely right. And I love that you kind of dug in, did your research, and then said like, hey, here are the people that can actually do something about it, you know, and help educate your audience. I think that was really really neat that that you took that approach. And it's funny too because like as a black man, like I during when the pandemic like first started, and I put out this video, and it was directed towards small business owners, like just encouraging them and stuff like that. And then later on, I had put out a video, and it was encouraging, just kind of like a shout out to like nurses, doctors, like people that were kind of like, working throughout this whole thing, and helping people that were in need. And I remember like this woman commented, and she was a white woman. She commented on the post, and the George Floyd thing had just happened. And I'd posted a video like before that, and then the George Floyd thing happened. And then she was like, how are you putting out this video? And in the video, like it showed like the Belleville sign, which is kind of like a local area that we're in. She's like, how are you shouting out like Belleville, which I wasn't doing, and talking about that Belleville's a racist place, and this person just got his face stomped in, and you're talking about blah 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 blah, and I'm like, okay, this is wild. I'm like,
Yeah.
what is going on here? I'm like, here's a woman, a white woman coming at me for something, like, and I'm so
Nobody trolled anyone harder during Black Lives Matter than suburban white women. Like I feel like and the influencer crowd of that demographic as well. I felt like they went and they trolled tons of people. Like, why aren't you talking about this enough? I had a troll during that period of time who told me my feed on Instagram wasn't diverse enough. My feed is just me. If you looked at my feed, you'd be like, well, she doesn't have friends because she doesn't feature
that
them.
energy would be so much better used doing exactly what you just said that people should do,
Yep.
right?
Yeah,
Like,
that was a big thing for me. I was like, wow, just wow. Somebody was angry at me for patronizing a local business. They're like, you shouldn't. It's owned, like, why are you always frequenting this business? She didn't know that it was actually 50% owned by a black man. Um,
people don't have the whole story, and that's the
no,
thing. People, they'll speak out before they have a holistic view, and in a lot of cases they're not even open to hearing the holistic view. So I
oh,
leave
no
them
one
alone.
wants to hear it.
I
Nobody
leave them alone.
does. And it was, oh man, just craziness on the internet. I'm like, oh my goodness, if there was ever a time to like stay off the internet, that was probably it. So,
Yeah, wow. And the other part of the book, because you said like and the words that stuck out to me, and this is the one thing I wanted to go at as well, was you said chasing likes.
yes.
So when you say chasing likes, what do you mean by that?
What I mean by it is that influencers are basically trying to do everything possible to stay alive and stay relevant. And so everything you're doing is to chase likes and to get engagement and comments and those kinds of things. Because if you've got good engagement with a good following, then brands give you collaborations, and that's how you can make some really good money. But without those likes and without that engagement, the brand deals kind of stop coming. So you're always chasing it. You're always looking for that next set of engagement of like, love me, love my content, help me with this, show me some love so that I can just keep going and, keep peddling the next product and that kind of thing. And
I'm so
so
glad you brought that up.
it's
Sorry,
just
keep going.
there's so much inauthenticity. It just I guess maybe I just hit my breaking point that I was like, you know what? No, like this isn't what influencer marketing is supposed to be. And so we need to just, I don't want to say like blow it wide open, but I'm like, I need to have that conversation. And I felt like a book was the way to do it. So,
Wow, I'm so glad you did that. Like it was honestly super, super sad. Like I know an influencer in the nutrition space, and she literally, like, she posted something, and I saw the post, I liked it, I commented, like I thought it was like a really good value what she posted. And then I look again, she took it down. And like I'm chatting with her about something else, and then I was like, oh, what happened to that? And then she was like, oh, I took it down, like there wasn't enough engagement, and like that's what brand, like people that want to do brand deals, like that's what they look at. And I'm like, I felt so sad. I was like, you're like, that's like you're pandering to the likes, and that validates the value that you put out? Like, and
Which
what she put out was extremely valuable. I just got sad when I saw that.
Well, it's disheartening too, right? Because that was actually quality, meaningful content that was impactful, probably very authentic and genuine. But it's like, oh, it didn't get all the likes. The problem with that is that, like, especially my audience is not the best for commenting publicly or just hitting that double tap so that I get all the likes. But they'll DM me. I'll have friends text me and be like, "Oh, hey, I just saw this on Instagram that you posted," and I was like, "Well, you didn't engage on the post, but I know you saw it, like there were eyeballs on it, but to brands, it's just about the likes." And yeah, that's really unfortunate that that's what happened, that she ended up taking the post down. But yeah, that's really the case, that people are just pandering to the engagement. And they're starting to do more and more outrageous and ridiculous things just to get more engagement or get noticed or try and like shoot themselves like above everyone else. And they're not doing anything meaningful. It's like they're not being recognized for doing anything, like, I don't want to say worthwhile, but really a lot of it isn't. A lot of these videos and the content that people are posting, I say this in the book and I stand by it, is contributing to basically the watering down of society. Like, what value are you
Mm.
adding to people's day? I mean, there's one thing for, entertainment and stuff like that. Don't get me wrong, I believe in entertainment and things that are funny and, that kind of thing. But man, at the end of the day, I'm just like, I don't know, I'm not loving what I'm seeing.
All right. Well, so here's what I want to do then to kind of like to kind of wrap this and provide as much value here as possible. Two things. I want to hear from you, like what would you say to influencers who you're seeing out there, who you believe they're pandering to the likes, they're maybe being unauthentic because they overvalue the likes and undervalue, the authenticity of who they are and their personal brand. And then the second thing I want to do is where can people go and find this book? I honestly think that people should, like, especially if you're in the influencer space, like, you got to know, I want them to know where they can find your book. So we'll start with the first question. Like, what would you say to influencers who are struggling with this?
I would say remember your why you started. And if why you started is just to be famous, then I probably don't have a lot that I can offer you. But if you're really wanting to make an impact and you have, something valuable to say, then do that and stay true to that. And don't sell out, because at the end of the day, when Instagram is gone, because it will eventually be gone, or someone else has kind of taken your place. It's just, you have to live with what you put online. Or think about this in 10 years, if your kids are in their, tweens and teens, and they're asking you about this content that they've seen that you posted 10 years ago, and they're like, "Who, really? Like, really, mom? Like, you sure? Like, do you really stand by that?" Or, think about that. I know when I post, I've got some kids in my neighborhood. There's some teenage girls and they follow me, and I think, okay, what am I okay with them seeing me do? Because I know that whether I like it or not, I'm a role model. And if they just, you know, see me doing ridiculous things just to pander to likes, and what am I teaching them? So I think that that's one of those things, think about how this is really impacting the people that, that are seeing this content, and how do you really feel about doing this at the end of the day? Like, if you don't care and it's just whatever and it's a means to an end, then I guess fine. That's you. You do you. But yeah, you got to live with it.
I really really appreciate you saying that, Carly. Where can people go and find out more about you, find out more about your book?
So my book is on Amazon. It's on Amazon.ca.com and on all the international sites. I believe if it hasn't reached your international Amazon site, it should trickle out by the end of this week. So you can get it there. It's in hardcover, paperback, and Kindle ebook. If you want more info about me in the book, you can go to chasinglikesbook.com, or you can find more info about it or me on my blog at styledtosparkle.com.
Wonderful, wonderful, Carly. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak with you. Like, and I can tell your heart on all of the things that we chatted about, and it makes me it's so good to see humans in the world who are like No. Like we see like the world doing this. Now we're gonna go over here and do this because this is real. So I really appreciate you and I appreciate you coming on the show today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This was awesome.
Absolutely. We will chat very soon. I will follow up with you. Love to hear from you. And this won't be the last time we chat. So I look
I
forward to
believe
it. I
that.
hope you have a fantastic day.
Thanks, you too.